From a distance, they look like scale models that somehow slipped onto real plates. Up close there, the purest distillation of driving fun Japan ever mass-produced. Tiny footprints, featherweight bodies, and just enough power to make every on-ramp feel like a qualifying lap. This is the K sports car trio: Autozam AZ-1, Honda Beat, and Suzuki Cappuccino. The pocket supercars that proved outright speed isn't required for big smiles. First, the rules that shaped them. In Japan, K regulations capped size and engine displacement in the 90s, 660cc, 64 PS maximum, in exchange for tax breaks and cheaper parking certification. The constraints sound brutal, but they forced creative engineering, extreme lightness, clever packaging, and handling tuned for momentum. What emerged between 1991 and 1994 were three very different answers to the same question: how to build a real driver's car inside a shoebox. Start with the wild one, Autozam AZ-1. Born from a maze of prototypes that bounced between Suzuki and Mazda before landing in Mazda's youth-oriented Autozam sub-brand, the AZ-1 is mid-engined, turbocharged, and wears gullwing doors like a 3/4 scale supercar. The turbo 3-cylinder sits transverse behind the seats, feeding a 5-speed manual. The body is all slashes and intakes, and the driving position is pure race car: low cowl, high sills, elbows tucked in. On paper, the power number is modest, but the car weighs roughly 3/4 of a ton, so the boost hits with mischief. The chassis is the real magic. With the engine over the rear axle and the wheelbase tiny, rotation happens by thought. Trail the brakes, pin the nose, ease back to throttle, and the rear squats into exit like a cart. It's not the friendliest in traffic. The cabin is tight and luggage space is a rumor. But on a twisty road, the AZ-1 feels like a professional secret. The less mass you carry, the more alive the steering gets. If the AZ-1 is the cartoon supercar, the Honda Beat is the open-air roadster that vibrates at the frequency of joy. Mid-engine again, but naturally aspirated this time. Honda's E-Series 656cc triple with MTREC, individual throttle bodies and smart mapping, sings to an 8,500 RPM redline through a 5-speed manual that snicks like a watch. The Beat isn't fast, it's busy. The engine thrums, the intake gulps, the chassis talks, and the steering draws clean arcs with millimeter adjustments of your wrists. Honda tuned compliance into the suspension so the car breathes with bad pavement, keeping the tires loaded and the driver relaxed. It's also the most welcoming of the three. The soft top disappears in seconds, sightlines are excellent, and the ergonomics feel like a shrunken S2000 prototype. People who do get cars will ask for a ride. People who do will ask for the keys. Then there's the Suzuki Cappuccino, the smallest Grand Tourer you've ever met. Here the engine sits up front longitudinal, the drive goes to the rear, and balance is the party trick near 50-50 with a driver on board. Turbocharged 660cc 4-valve triple, 5-speed manual, and a trick 3-piece roof that lets you choose T-top, targa, or full convertible. Compared with the Beat, it's more planted and grown-up. Compared with the AZ-1, it's less hyper and more usable. It leans into classic sports car cues: long hood, short deck, proper trunk, then adds K cleverness. The steering has that old-school on-center calm, the shifter is crisp, and the turbo torque fills in the gaps so you surf between 3,000 and 6,000 RPM. If you had to daily one of the trio, this is the easy answer. 3 cars, 3 personalities. The AZ-1 is the sharp tool, lightning rotation, mid-engine theatrics, and event every time you pull the gullwings down. The Beat is the musical one, throttle bodies chirping, tack needle laughing, a momentum masterclass that rewards clean lines over heroics. The Cappuccino is the classicist, front engine, rear drive rhythm with useful torque and the most adult ergonomics. All 3 fit within K limits. All 3 hit the 64 PS cap in different ways, small turbo Vs, high revving NA. And all 3 weigh so little that tires and brakes live easy lives even when you're not. What makes them more than curiosities is how deeply they teach driving. With 63 HP, everything becomes a lesson in carrying speed. You start looking through corners, hunting for camber, lining up exits early, and treating the throttle like punctuation rather than a hammer. The cars respond with big feedback and small consequences. Miss an apex and you lose a few mph. Nail it and you feel like a genius. It's spec Mayada energy with even fewer pixels. Every input visible, every mistake affordable. They also capture a cultural moment. Early 90s Japan was experimenting with identity, bubble-era optimism fatting, creativity spiking in pockets, and the K sports car was a playful outlet. Magazines ran comparison tests on mountain passes. Tuners found room to play, freer flowing exhausts and intercoolers for the turbo cars, cams and ECU tweaks for the beat, mild suspension refreshes all around. Aero companies even built mini GT kits, turning cappuccinos into shrunken Group B daydreams and AZ-1s into tiny Le Mans props. Meanwhile, owners used them. Grocery runs, beach days, late-night touch, kept at sane speeds because the cars made fun out of effort, not power. Which one fits which driver? If you crave the sense of a race car scaled to human streets, the AZ-1 is irresistible. It's the most intense at 9/10 and the least practical at 1/10, but the payoff is huge. Every B-road becomes a private stage. If you prioritize feel and soundtrack, the beat is pure oxygen. It's the least quick on paper and the most addictive in practice, because revs plus airflow equals grin. If you want balance with fewer compromises, the cappuccino splits the difference. RWD playfulness, stable high-speed manners, roof versatility, and the best chance your knees won't hate you after an hour. Ownership footnotes matter for a video about legends. These are 3-decade-old machines. Condition trumps mileage. On AZ-1s, inspect door mechanisms and seals, look for crash repairs, many were enthusiast-owned, and check cooling and turbo plumbing for age. Beats like fresh vacuum lines for the MTREC system, healthy timing belts and soft top care. Dampers and bushings are often tired by now. Cappuccinos deserve a thorough rust check, sills, subframes, attention to turbo coolant oil lines and roof panel fitment. The good news: support networks in Japan are strong, UK and US communities know the common fixes, and many wear parts cross-reference to bread-and-butter Suzukis and Hondas. The better news: because they're light, consumables are cheap and track days don't chew them up. On camera, lean into scale and sound. Park one next to a modern compact and let the audience see how tiny they are. Mic the intakes and shifters. Capture the Beat's ITB whistle, the Cappuccino's turbo chirp, the AZ-1's wastegate cough. Show the roof ballet on the Suzuki, the gullwing drama on the Autozam, and the Beat's roof-down silhouette against a skyline. Use POV shots to highlight how little movement it takes to guide them. 2 fingers on the wheel, a wrist's worth of throw between gears, a toe of brake to rotate the chassis. And give the audience a momentum benchmark. Drive the same downhill section in all 3 and overlay speeds. The delta will be smaller than people expect because lightness cheats physics without cheating laws. Why call them pocket supercars? Not because of top speed or lap times, but because they compress supercar feel into everyday speeds. Exuberant engines, mid-engine or rear-drive balance, distinctive doors and roofs, and an insistence that the driver be part of the equation. They're approachable, fixable, and completely unserious, and yet absolutely serious about the craft of going quickly. In the end, the K Trio proves a lesson that scales up to any budget. Fun is force multiplied by feedback. Less mass means more feedback. More feedback means more confidence. More confidence means you carry more speed with less power. Autozam AZ-1, Honda Beat, Suzuki Cappuccino. 3 paths to the same outcome. You grinning in the right gear, with a horizon of corners and absolutely no need for a dyno sheet to justify the feeling.